you.
And thank you for joining us tonight. Look, we were a little bit worried 10 minutes ago, there was nobody here. And now look, and we've got even more online. So as I say, it's really nice to have you here. You know Peter Nakamura, of course, and Jane Everett, who will be part of the organising group. But we're really excited about this tour and the opportunity to present it to you, because it's been a 2-year hiatus for us, of course. So to get back in the swing of things is very, very important for us, just to give the kids those opportunities outside the classroom, those growth and development and those cultural opportunities that they haven't seen for some time. So I'm going to hand over to Peter now and let her and Jane take you through the tour and the organisational aspects. So over to you. Excellent.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave. I'm hoping everyone at home can hear me. It's my first time doing a live event, so you have to excuse me if it's not quite as smooth as it could be. As Dave said, I'm really excited. It's 3 years since I was standing here proposing the 2020 tour, which Jane Everett was also scheduled to go on, and John Gothard, and that tour unfortunately got cancelled. So it's an exciting time to be thinking about taking students to Japan again. We're looking at going in the September holidays next year. These are proposed dates. Everything at the moment is still fairly fluid, but it would be basically it's the whole of your holiday. That's a Saturday morning departure, coming back on a Saturday morning. That's the term where you get the Monday public holiday. So you get 2 days to recover and then you're back to school on Tuesday. Actually, just before we get into the detail tonight, if I could just say a note on how we're going to run tonight. We've got a room full of people here in the classroom and many people at home online. If you're at home online and participating, I just ask that if you've got questions that you put them on the Q&A section, and we'll answer them at the end when we take everyone else's questions, if that's okay. And tonight's presentation, along with the Q&A chat, will be recorded, so if you want to see it afterwards, we can send it to you. All right, so what do we aim for with these cultural language tours overseas? The Japan tour, obviously, we're looking at a first-hand experience of the language, the people, the food, yum, and the culture. Gives students that invaluable experience of using their language in real-life situations. So we do a fair bit of speaking in class, but of course it's never the same as if you're actually thrown in the deep end and have to go and buy your own lunch at the 7-Eleven. So a chance to use their Japanese. Just as important, I feel, is the chance to bond with other CHAC students. A lot of our students here already have really strong friendships, but a tour like this can cement those friendships. It can also create friendships. Ooh, sorry, people online. No violent hand movements. It can also create friendships between students across the year levels, which can be something that you don't necessarily get the opportunity to do in another way. So that's really important. Obviously, with 2 weeks away from home, you're going to develop your resilience and your independence. Your parents will be amazed when you come back home and you can get yourself ready to school on time with all the correct equipment. And when you can do it in Japan, I'll be thanking your parents. Obviously, personal growth. I think Mr. Pavish spoke to this as well, but these experiences will provide some challenges along the way, and it's an opportunity then to reflect and to learn and to grow through that experience. One of the features of the Japanese tour is that we have a sister school near Mount Fuji called Xavier College, and we will be doing a homestay with a student from the college there and going to school for 4 days as well. So that's part of the aims of the tour. In terms of outcomes, what do we expect to get? Inspiration and motivation to continue your Japanese studies. Can sometimes feel a little bit of a slog, I think, in Japanese, because you've got 3 scripts to learn and you've got a lot of vocab and grammar to learn on top of that. And we see the French students making crepes and speaking fluently, and we've got to learn all this script. So I think it really helps if you get to go to Japan to gain a bit of inspiration and motivation. And with that comes increased confidence in your language skills. Strong bonds of friendship, as I spoke to before, is certainly an outcome of the tour. I know many friendships that have been, solidly forged through those 2 weeks away. And the self-confidence that comes with being away from home for 2 weeks. I don't know how many of you would have been away for that length of time before. Maybe this could be a first time, but it's, yeah, you certainly grow in self-confidence through the experience. Cross-cultural understanding is something that comes out of it as well. And that can come through the homestay experience. Is probably where you're going to run into the most you're going to notice differences the most, but also out and about in Tokyo, the city itself, just noticing how such a large, busy city is organised and how politely the people line up for the trains. Things like this will make you reflect on our culture and have an appreciation for how, you know, another people live their lives. And we teach you to be a good tourist. So things like how to be a respectful tourist when you're in someone else's country. And we'll talk about that a bit later. Oh yeah, the 2 kilos. We eat a lot of ice cream. We do a lot of walking, but the Japanese food is fabulous. So we eat well and walk a lot, but still manage to put on a bit of weight. Don't we, Everett Sensei? Yes. Okay, so an outline of our proposed itinerary. As I said, these dates are yet to be confirmed, but we'd be looking at leaving the first Sunday of the holidays, coming back the last Saturday. We fly into Tokyo, 3 nights in Tokyo. Then we move to our sister school, which is near Mount Fuji, as I said, in the town called Fujinomiya, and we have 4 nights there. While students are in homestay there, the teachers are in a hotel in the middle of the town, so we're not very far. It's quite a small rural town. We're not far from any of those kids. So if anything did come up and they'll all have our number, we can easily, you know, look after them. And then we move west down the main island of Japan and head to Hiroshima and Miyajima for a night each in those places. After that, we get on a bullet train and head back east towards Kyoto for 3 nights. And we're going to stop in, oh, sorry, I'll mention that later, stop along the way. And then from Kyoto, we travel up to Tokyo and fly out of Tokyo to come home. So that's your basic outline of where we'd be going. So as you can see, we have quite a good sort of spread of, you know, the major places you'd like to go in Japan. So some of the highlights of the itinerary. In Tokyo, we stay in the Tokyo Central Youth Hostel, which is right in the middle of Shinjuku. That's dormitory style accommodation. So the students will be sharing rooms. Teachers usually have to share with ourselves, yeah. And the way I like to run the tour is we start with the cheapest accommodation and we finish with the best when we're tired. So we start cheap and then we work our way to something a bit nicer by the end. And then hopefully we'll get to see the Ghibli Animation Studios Museum, the makers of Totoro, Spirited Away, Ponyo. If you're interested in art or you love those movies, that museum is just a beautiful visit because you can see all their drawings, how they make those amazing movies. It's really quite special. It's not always easy to get tickets though, so I have to put a disclaimer on that. Depends whether we can get tickets or not. Other things we might do in Tokyo. We have been to the sumo before, which was absolutely fantastic, and I loved it so much, but it's not always easy to get. Depends whether the dates line up, whether we can get tickets, lots of variables, but if we can, we'd definitely go to a sumo tournament to see them throw the cushions in the air and watch all the ceremony around sumo is amazing, even if you don't really understand the rules at all. Just 2 fat guys pushing each other. We will sightsee and shop in Tokyo. Okay, there are some shrines to see in Tokyo that are famous. There are famous shopping areas. There's the crazy street of Harajuku where you can eat crepes and see the fashion. There's amazing shops called Tokyu Hands where you can buy every crazy item you could ever want to have. So that's a lot of fun. So start working and save your money, kids, is what I say. Also some karaoke, I can't call it karaoke, karaoke at night. After we have dinner, we might head out to a karaoke box and yeah, see what damage we can do. Last tour we did go to the Future Museum as well and see some robots, which was really good as well. So these are all options at this stage. This is, yeah, options. All right, after that, as I said, we're going to move to the homestay and sister school near Mount Fuji in Shizuoka Prefecture for 4 nights. This is still subject to confirmation just because of the way that things are at the moment. Everything's very evolving. Japan's a little bit behind us in terms of their COVID journey, and they tend to be conservative. So I haven't even approached the sister school about us coming in September next year, but they love CHAC students, and I'm sure that as soon as Japan opens to general travel and their school board has said yes, I'm sure we won't have any trouble getting back there. So I just have to put that sort of disclaimer there that that is subject to them saying yes. If they said no, all we would do is maybe shrink the tour by a couple of days and maybe see some other places instead. So that's sort of the way I'm thinking about that at the moment. But just be aware that you're not guaranteed that you're going to get the homestay experience yet. So, but I think everyone's used to being flexible. If you do go to Fujinomiya, you'll probably be very nervous in the lead up to it. And at the end, you'll be crying because you just won't want to leave. Yeah. So these are some of the things we do. You stay with the Japanese family, you go to school, you get to just go to some of their normal lessons, do a calligraphy class, an art class, tea ceremony, and it literally is right at the base of Mount Fuji. Okay, so it's an amazing location. Some of the students, their homestay families, like they could look out their bedroom window and Mount Fuji's there. So it's pretty amazing. It won't have that much snow on it because we go in like end of summer, so it won't look quite like that. But I think that photo was taken by a student who went on the bursary, so the Japanese exchange, and he went in winter, Ben Fergus, Mr. Fergus's son, and he took that amazing photo of the bullet train passing Mount Fuji. So after homestay, as I said, Hiroshima and Miyajima. In Hiroshima, of course, we'll visit the Peace Park and see the museum there. And there's many recounts there from atomic bomb survivors. It's a very somber experience. So that's a day where we kind of lower the mood a little bit and go and pay our respects, I suppose, and think about what happened to Japan in the Second World War. After we've been to the bomb museum, because we've only got sort of one day in Hiroshima basically, but we head to Okonomiyaki village and have the famous Hiroshima style okonomiyaki. That always ends up being one of the favourite meals from tour. It's cheap, it's fun. It's also Mr. O'Brien's favourite. He went on the tour some years ago and that's his favourite meal, which he's never forgotten. Yeah, so that's a pretty special dinner, that one. And so after Hiroshima, we go to Miyajima. Miyajima is the island that is just off Hiroshima and has that famous floating shrine gates of Utsukushima. And so we'll stay there. We get a lot of exercise here. We climb Mount Misen. And then we look, hopefully we get weather like we did last time and it looks like you're in heaven and all these islands are floating around you. It was absolutely spectacular last time we were there. Just beautiful. But yes, you have to be fit. After Miyajima, we travel east to Kyoto, but we stop on the way at Himeji because there's a fantastic castle there. I was an exchange student in Japan a long time ago, and I lived in Kobe, which is sort of along that same sort of stretch of Japan. So it wasn't far to get to this castle. So I went a couple of times because it really is one of the most magnificent original castles in Japan, and it's been restored a couple of years ago. And I think it's also nice to see something that's not a temple, not a garden, but this is, if you're interested in learning a bit about Japan's feudal past, and especially not just boys, but girls as well, like there's a lot about warfare there. You know, look at the design of the castle, learning about how they've set it up and what are those funny little holes for? Are they for pouring hot oil out onto your enemies as they approach the castle? You know, there's a lot of cool stuff in that castle. I think it's really well worth a visit. It's called the White Heron, that castle, because it kind of looks like a white bird. It's really spectacular. So we get off the bullet train there, have a couple of hours to climb up to the top of that castle, have some lunch, get back on the bullet train and go to Kyoto. 3 nights in Kyoto is what I'm proposing this time. We only did 2 nights the last few times I've done a tour there, but I was thinking this time we might go to Universal Studios Japan and see Harry Potter World and all the other rides that are there. So we'll do a day in Osaka and go to USJ is the plan. Obviously Kyoto, famous for temples, shrines, beautiful gardens. Hopefully, because we've got a bit more time there, we might get to try some traditional handicrafts. And as I said, Harry Potter World. I've been there once before, did that one, and it was so much fun, so much fun. Really, I was very excited. All right. Okay, so there's all the fun parts. I hope you're feeling very excited. Now we've got to talk a bit about the expectations or the requirements for students who go on these tours. Can you hear me down the back of the room, by the way? Okay, you can come up the front, you know. Expectations of tourers. You've got to be fully vaccinated to participate in the tour. And we'll be developing a full COVID management plan, but we'll do that closer to the departure date of the tour because things are changeable. We don't know what the rules are going to be in a year's time. So obviously that's something that we're going to have to work through a bit closer to departure date. Okay, but the fact that you have to be fully vaccinated, that's probably no surprise to anyone, I wouldn't think. I, as tour leader, would certainly feel far more comfortable knowing that we have that situation. You have to have a good level of general fitness because we walk a lot. We do eat a lot, but we walk a lot. So that's back when we didn't have Fitbits, we used to record our steps on our phone. That was a day we did, I think that day was in Kyoto actually. 20,000 steps, 13.8, kilometers, 17 floors. You need some really good walking shoes because we walk a lot. And the thing about Japan that I think is different from Australia is you travel by public transport everywhere you go. Train stations have so many stairs, so you're going up and down stairs all the time. So it is important that, you're in good condition, good physical condition when you go. Another thing is, it's 2 weeks away from home. We need you to have a positive attitude, good manners, and a willingness to give things a try. We're taking a large group of students and not all activities are going to appeal to everyone all the time, but it's really important that you bring your positive attitude and you do your best for the group, even if it's a day where, I'm not really into theme parks, I'd rather do this, then we need good participation. And you have to be able to cope with group situations for 14 days. You really don't get a lot of time on your own on a tour like this. As an introvert, that's something I struggle with. So my recommendation to anyone who's a bit like me is bring some good headphones, bring a book and have times where you can sit on a train, put them on, read your book and just get your quiet time that way. Okay, if you're an extrovert, you'll be fine. 14 days, you don't get a lot of quiet time, let's say. Other things. Obviously, tours have to follow our instructions at all times and be punctual. This is one thing that causes the most angst within the group is you can imagine if you've got a group of, 25, 28, whatever we end up with, and someone's late and we've got activities planned for that day, we really have to insist that you're punctual, you get your stuff organised, you get down at the time that we say that we're leaving. So to help with that, we give you a little tour itinerary booklet that you take everywhere with you, and that's your Bible. It's got everything written in it about what time about where we're going, what time we're planning on leaving, what time the train goes in some cases. All right, so punctuality is important. You have to adhere to dress code requirements without any argument. And this relates back to the first slide where I talked about being a good tourist and being respectful in another country. One of the things we have to realise is that the clothes we wear here in Australia are not clothes that they would wear in Japan. So we have to be a little bit more conservative in our dress. Even, and I know this will shock you, but things like wearing leggings in Japan leggings aren't considered pants that are appropriate to wear out in public in Japan, unless things have changed in the last couple of years. So we just have to be careful about making sure that we're not offending anyone. It's particularly important, I guess, when you're on homestay, but also just travelling around Japan in general. You'll notice that dress codes are far more conservative. So we'll talk about that once we get the group together and we know who's going. But have to be prepared to go to bed late and get up early. There are some days where it's a long day and then you're up early the next day. So even if it's a long day and you're tired at the end of it, but we've got an activity planned, you have to be prepared to say, yep, I'm up for it. You don't get to say, sorry, miss, I'm going to bed. If I don't get to go to bed, you don't get to. You've got to have maturity to deal with cultural differences experienced in the homestay family, and I'm sure you will run across a few. I mean, I teach you about the culture here, and I'm sure you all know a bit about the culture, but there'll be some things I'm sure that you'll be going, oh, okay. So you just have to be mature enough to handle those things. And show respect for everyone else on the tour leaders, and obviously all locals in Japan. We represent our school, so we go in a CHAC t-shirt for when we're travelling. We have CHAC hats. When we go to the school over there, we're obviously representing our school, so we want to be good representatives. We always have been. I must say. I've never had issues with the behaviour of CHAC kids on a tour overseas. In terms of risk management, I just wanted to reassure you, it's been uncertain times and it's been scary times for lots of people, but we take the health and safety of your children extremely seriously. So we will be doing full risk management plan before we take this tour overseas. Okay. We'll look at all possible scenarios, COVID and otherwise, and work out how we're going to deal. What will we do if this happened? What will we do if this happened? Work out a full risk management plan and staff the tour accordingly. So I can't really say more about it than that till we sort of get closer to the event and find out, look, how are things sitting? What's it looking like? But yeah, I just wanted you to know that we take it very seriously. Obviously, I mean, I'm a mother, Jane's a mother, we've got experience parenting as well as teaching, so I think that also helps in our judgments when we're taking your children overseas, just so that you know that. Oh, and that's my second point, I guess, our experience in leading overseas tours. Before I was a teacher, I lived in Japan for 9 years and I worked over there. My husband's Japanese, I'm a fluent speaker, I'm very comfortable getting myself around Japan. I've done 3 tours with CHAC, so I do have experience leading them. I think you should feel very reassured that your children are going to be in safe hands. Jane, you've been to Japan several times?
Yeah, I've lost count. I think it's about 13 times over the years. Yeah, really looking forward to this tour and getting back.
Yeah, excellent. Okay. All right, so an estimate of costs, and you can see all the asterisks on this, subject to change. So around $5,000 per student is what we're saying you need to be ready to part with. That will include airfares, accommodation, insurance, Japan Rail Pass, breakfasts, entry tickets to things like USJ, baseball, etc., tour t-shirts and a cap, and the cost of the tour leaders, so the accompanying teachers. What's not included then is your lunch and dinner when you're not in homestay. So your homestay, when you're in homestay, your homestay will provide all your food for you. But on other times when we're out and about, you've got to buy your own lunch and dinner. Food in Japan, well, the world currently is in an inflationary cycle, but food in Japan has been very cheap. You can get a great meal for, $7 or $8 in Australia. And the convenience stores also sell really good meals for not a lot of money. So that's also, hopefully, inflation won't get too far away on them between now and then either. You need money for your own souvenirs and own shopping, obviously. So that's something where I'd be saying students start, saving up if you're working, or saving that birthday and Christmas money. Snacks and drinks from vending machines and some gifts for your host families. So if we're doing the homestay component, it's Japanese culture that you'd always take a gift. So you'd have to prepare some gifts. They don't have to be very expensive, generally just something nice from Australia that you can present them. So the variables on the costings, obviously there are a lot. I mean, we're just, we've got the exchange rate at the moment is very good. Don't know if it's going to continue. It's about 92, I think, at the moment, which is the best I've seen for a very long time. We've also got inflation though. We've got, depending on what the teacher-student ratio we decide we need, the flight fares. So at the moment, the quote I've got is based on this year's flight fares. It depends what they say when they come out. Number of students going will affect the cost. More students means it'll be cheaper usually. And the breakdown of male and female students for room accommodation. And obviously, I mean, I think whether the homestay component goes ahead or not, some variation, but I don't know whether that'll have a major variation because I'll probably shrink the days a little bit. For terms and conditions, before you leave tonight, people who are in the room, I'll get you to pick up a copy of this tour terms and conditions sheet, just to have a read of before you fill out your expression of interest. And I just draw your attention to this part of the terms and conditions here, saying that your child has to be in good health and fitness immediately prior to the tour. Okay, so if something comes up and it turns out that they're not well enough to tour with the group, in our opinion, the college does reserve the right to say, no, I'm sorry, but they can't go, because we have to consider the well-being of the whole group and how that whole tour is going to operate. So just note that that is in the tour terms and conditions. We do, however, have insurance through the Anglican Diocese, and in cases in the past where a student has had to withdraw at short notice, they have got, you know, reasonable amount of their money back. It just took time. So it depends what the airfares will refund and the hotels will refund, and then the insurance, but just to let you know that that can happen. So if you could please read through those tour terms and conditions and make sure that you're happy with those. So where to from here? Next steps are that you'd fill in an expression of interest form and return a hard copy or email it back to me by Friday week. And then looking at paying a non-refundable deposit of $600 by the end of August. When you pay that deposit, $600, you'll also be asked to sign the tour terms and conditions here. And for people who are watching online, I think I emailed you today the expression of interest form and the terms and conditions of tour. The balance then, so the $600 deposit, the balance then gets collected in stages. So term 4, you'd be invoiced $1,200, and the same again, term 1 next year, term 2 next year, then the balance would come out in term 3. Sorry, it says there it goes out with school fees. It doesn't go out with school fees anymore because we're doing it through the new events and payment system. So that's sort of how the finances for the tour would work. Tour numbers will be capped at 28 because we have to consider the ability of the sister school to host us. And we haven't in the past taken 28. We had 29 signed up for the 2020 tour, which never went ahead. The tours before that were around 24, 26, somewhere around there. It's a bit tricky getting around Tokyo if you've got too many people, especially with big suitcases when we're moving between places. So that's another reason for putting a limit on it. So if we are oversubscribed though, like we've got too many people who want to go, basically, first of all, I would say if there's any year 12 students next year who want to go, they would be given preference. I'm not anticipating many year 12 students will choose to take the tour at that time because they've got external exams coming up pretty soon afterwards. But if they chose to do that, we'd probably give them preference, and then the rest would be done by ballot drawn out, you know, by the principal. And if that occurs that you didn't happen to be selected, your deposit would then be refunded. Okay, and you could go on a wait list to see if there are any cancellations. In terms of how we communicate with you, I'll be sending any updates to you via email, and on the expression of interest form here, you'll see there is a thing that says, if you need to update your email address and or mobile addresses with the college, could you please write there what you preferred, what needs to be fixed? I know I had one email at least bounce from the group, so if you've got new details, please write them on there. Just so that we can communicate with you. We would then do a tour meeting for students before the end of this year, and then a meeting for parents and students towards the end of term 2 next year. So when we're starting to get closer to that departure date, we'd have a meeting there. That's when we usually get the questions like, what do we do about mobile phones? How much spending money do you need? What sort of clothes do you need, etc., etc. We will be meeting with the tourers at lunchtimes next year to start getting ready and forming a bit of a bond as a group. We also have to prepare an entertainment item. If we're going to the sister school, we have to sing and dance for them, and literally, which is where Jane's skills are very handy. And there'll be a final meeting for parents and students in the last week before departure. That's when I collect all your passports and mind them.
Speaking of passports, making sure we've got enough validity.
Yeah, so once we decide who's going, one of the first things to get onto will be checking your child has a passport and it's got enough months left. I think they usually ask for 6 months, most travel agents these days. Okay, so we're up to the Q&A section of the night. Can you see any Q&A? All right, let me just freeze that one and go and have a look, see if I can see them. Yes, I can get you to look at them on here. It's just being a bit slow at coming in. Just bear with us, people at home, while we check our Q&A, and I'll see if there's any questions in the room. Any questions from people who are here? Yes, Zach.
Will we be carrying our suitcases around with us everywhere?
You're basically carrying them on days when we move somewhere. So first day from Tokyo, we actually get met by a coach, a bus. So that's not too arduous. They put the luggage on the bus and the bus will take us to our accommodation. You just need day packs for day travel. It's only when you move between locations that you'd be carrying your suitcase. But yes, you'll be responsible for your own luggage. Yep. I'll just let you have a look at those. And anything else, June? Yeah.
Just writing to suggest.
Yes, Shane.
Is there like a date, a month or whatever, a date by which you will decide whether the tour will go ahead or not, based on things like COVID and what Japan's doing with its rules?
Okay, probably haven't thought about that, but I guess, yes, there will be a date. In terms, the initial thing would be, do we have enough interest from the, student body to decide if we're going to go ahead or not? So that's the first thing. I mean, we assume that we're going to go ahead, and I guess we'd just be watching events. Yeah, I don't know, Mr. Pavish, anything else you'd add to that?
So we'll be watching very, very closely and monitoring what happens.
Yeah.
There's a question about travel insurance. Yeah.
Yep.
Whether it's included.
Okay, question on the chat online, is travel insurance, thinking from a medical travel insurance viewpoint, included in the price of the tour? Yes, so the Anglican Diocese insurance policy that we have does include travel insurance for each student. However, you need to review that policy. I'll be sending it out to you, to all the parents, to review to see if that suits your particular circumstances. So if you've got other circumstances that you feel you need to bump up that insurance, then that would be up to you to take out your own private insurance. But you are covered, yes. And we think, we're not sure, but we're just in the process of sort of talking with the insurance company through the policy and what's covered and what's not. In the event, for example, that a child got ill, we think that the insurance covers for parents to go over and collect their child and bring them home. We're just confirming that at the moment. It certainly does for our upcoming Outback tour. It covers parents to go up and get their kids and come back home. So it's a pretty good insurance policy that the Anglican Diocese had, but if you had specific medical needs, I'd recommend that you might take out some extra insurance. Oh, sorry. Repeat the question from the people in the room. Yes. Okay. Sorry. I should have done that. So the first question was, do we carry our own luggage? And it was yes, you carry your own luggage when we're moving from city to city. But generally on normal days when we're just out and about, you just have a backpack. But you have to make sure you can manage your own luggage. And the second question was about, is there a date when is there a date by which we decide if the tour is going ahead in light of Japan and COVID, etc. And I think we said the first steps would be expression of interest, making sure we've got enough interest from the parent body, and then just monitoring how things are going. It's a fluid situation. Another question, when would the ballot about who's going to Japan or not be held? It really just depends on the numbers. So we'd have to wait and see by the time we get deposits paid. So the end of August would probably be when that would happen. End of August, see who's paid deposits, see if we're oversubscribed. That would be when that would happen. How often are the students allowed to check in with families while away, i.e. calls or FaceTime? Yeah, this is an interesting one. things have changed so much with technology that I used to always say, look, bring a phone if you want to, but you don't have to. I know now that every single student will be bringing a phone. We encourage you that part of the personal growth of the experience is not to be in touch with home all the time. Okay, so we would like you to try not to be in touch all the time because that can sometimes make you more homesick. Okay, we want you to experience the event while you're there. Having said that, we don't place any specific, we're not going to come around and say, no, you may not call your parents. Okay, so yeah, you can be in touch with your parents, but we try and encourage you to step outside your comfort zone, grow your independence and self-confidence, and maybe not be in constant contact. I know certainly last tour, Jane set up an excellent WhatsApp group for parents where we posted some pictures so that they could sort of keep track of what we were doing on tour. And that was really fantastic, wasn't it?
That eased the load on the students and they didn't have to worry. They could just be in the moment, and I just captured, pictures of them and kept parents updated.
Yeah, and if you had a boy who didn't communicate at all, you could see some photos that they were still alive at some time during the tour. Yeah. What else do we have?
Having an emergency plan.
Yes, we will. So someone's suggesting that we have an emergency plan, phone numbers, emergency services. Yes, we have all of that stuff as part of our tour, Miguel. So thanks for the suggestion. I think that's...
Oh, it's the homestay in pairs.
Is the homestay in pairs or individuals? Generally, it's individual homestay, so you have to be prepared for that. That's the basis. That's the standard. However, if we had, say, 28 students going and say your college said to us, we just can't find that many willing homestays, there's a chance you might have to double up. Okay, I think that was where we were sort of at leading up to the 2020 tour, that there are a couple who may have had to double up, but generally you're on your own in homestay. But as I said, teachers are staying not far away in the town close by, so you're not on your own. You always have access to teachers and the rest of the tour group. Yes, Zach?
How many school uniforms will we have to pack for this?
Okay, don't worry too much about the detail just yet. You'll just have to... We'll be there for like 3 days and maybe one of them could be a weekend. It depends how the days line up. I do ask students just to bring their CHAC uniform bottoms. So for boys, the shorts or the long pants because it's Japan. Long pants, girls a skirt or long pants, and then you wear your tour t-shirt with that so that when we're at school, we're easily identifiable. We don't ask you to pack your leather school shoes. You just wear whatever walking shoes you've brought with you. So yeah, I mean, whatever you think you'd need for a couple of days, I'm sure you could probably get away with wearing the same trousers. Yeah.
Just had a couple of questions about COVID.
Okay, will there be a PCR requirement and regime before and during the trip? Okay, so there's a couple of questions on the Q&A about like if a student got COVID, what would you do? What's the testing regime going to be like? In regards to those things, that's all part of the COVID management plan that we'll be putting together closer to the time. I can't really answer that yet because we just don't know what the situation's going to be then. Obviously, we're putting your students' health and welfare first and foremost, and the welfare of the group as a whole. So we'll be doing whatever's necessary to ensure that we can keep everyone safe and still manage, a group tour. Have we got any other questions?
Do we meet up for school classes with other CHAC kids?
Oh, okay, at the homestay, yes, you will meet up. You will see other CHAC kids at school. You're not like in a little bubble. When we are at the school, we always meet in the mornings and have a check-in with the CHAC teachers. So you come to school, you see everyone else and you gush out all the things that happened in your homestay. We check in with all the kids, see how they're doing, see if there's anyone who's feeling a bit homesick. So you're not on your own. We're always checking in with you. And sometimes you might be in the same homeroom as another CHAC kid over there, so you'll see them at school all the time. Yeah.
How often does the Japan tour happen?
How often does Japan tour happen? Yes, that would weigh into your decision making, I'm sure. Every second year generally is the rule. That's probably all I can say. Will there be a trip in 2024 as well? No, but there'll potentially be a trip in 2025. Yeah, so every second year. Is that it?
Kind of skip to.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Any other questions from the room that we haven't covered? No?
Everyone excited?
Any-
Yeah.
That's a big question.
Yeah, I am.
All right then. Well, it looks like we may have come to the end of our questions and official part of the night. So unless there's any other questions, I'll probably finish the presentation there. If there's anyone who wants to get a copy of the slides or a copy of the presentation, just send me an email and I can shoot you through a copy of that. Please, if you would, before you go, if you want to, you can either use the electronic form or you can take a hard copy of the expression of interest form and then the terms and conditions to have a read through before you fill out that one probably. There's some on the seat on the tables back there and there's some on the front chair up here. People online, I've emailed it today, so you can use that one. So thank you very much for showing interest in the tour. We're super excited to think about taking it. It's a lot of work, but it's incredible fun and we also have a great time on tour. So thank you very much.